Hello people of the internet, it's Amanda and I'm making this video to sort of like address some of the comments and questions and protests that I received in my previous Inuyasha Yashahime video, specifically about one particular detail or probably the main detail that I talked about in that video. But first, before we move on to that one, I just want to address some of the more minor details, I guess, that I've mentioned in the video or has been mentioned in the comments that I felt like I've already had more time to think about, and therefore I want to talk more about them in this particular video. So first things first, I know that I mispronounced Inuyasha and Kagome's daughter's name. So apparently it's Moroha, not Mohora. And the thing is, I've looked at different sources when I was researching about the topic. So other sources like Den of Geek and I think comicbook.com said it was Mohora. When I look at the official statement released by Viz Media, apparently it's Moroha. I'm still having trouble saying that, but yes, so I'm so sorry about that, but I don't think a lot of people did notice. Just a couple of people mentioned it in comments, so but again, I'm so sorry, comment aside. Now, second thing that I want to address is that I overlooked that detail about Inuyasha and Kagome not being involved with Moroha's life. So I was sort of like surprised because as I published the video and then I started reading more into it, that's when I only read about that particular detail, that apparently like they're nowhere to be found and that Moroha doesn't have any recollection of her parents. So that's definitely a curious thing about this particular narrative, especially with the whole like why isn't Sesshomaru and whoever it is that is the mother of his children is also not involved with Towa and Setsuna. But I do feel like it's definitely one of the strategies as to how they can clinch us back into this entire thing. I mean, if we're openly just given this option of our favorite characters are coming back, especially the main ones, it definitely ignites nostalgia, but at the same time, like, just look at us now trying to figure out so whatever what is it, like what happened to Inuyasha and Kagome. So I think for that one, there's definitely a bigger thing that happened here, especially considering what happened to the children and how they're not really involved or connected with their parents. I would like to assume that given Kagome is now supposedly the head of the community that they're in. Again, as I mentioned, I feel like Kaide has already passed on given the timeline of this particular sequel. There could be something else or something bigger that we really have to look into regarding this entire fact. It's also kind of weird considering that given Sesshomaru is really a powerful demon, and then with Inuyasha and Kagome's history, it's just kind of impossible for them not to do something, especially if their children are involved. So for them to not seek them out, it's definitely a big question mark. So again, I really don't have a proper answer for that, but I do feel like it's definitely something that the narrative of the sequel is going to explore. Now, as for Miroko and Sango's children, I agree. I mean, it's kind of weird that they weren't really mentioned except for like others like Sota and Kohaku are mentioned in some of the teasers that we received, especially since at the end of the final act, Miroko and Sango's children are the ones that are actually shown to us that are of the next generation, if you get what I mean. So it's definitely kind of like a question as well, but I do feel like they're also going to introduce them later on. As for Shippo, a lot of people are also asking about him, like where's his place in this entire thing, and it would be interesting to definitely see him as a more adult demon, although since we really don't know how time or aging works for half demons or demons, it can definitely be tricky considering that, as I mentioned again, with Sesshomaru, he's already 500 years old, but his human years is just 19, and then for Inuyasha, it's also like the same thing, just around that arena. So it's definitely hard to figure out like if we're still gonna see Shippo in this one, and if he's still going to be in his very cute, adorable state, or he's sort of like a teenager now. So there's that. Now, another thing that people are saying is the overlap between the age of the children. So it's definitely tricky since again we don't know how the whole aging process goes. And of course, it's also kind of weird since if we're pinpointing Rin, so definitely Kagome is a lot older than she is when the final act ended. So how can the ages of the children be the same? Especially with like how are we going to consider children of half demons with a human? Are they just still considered half demons or like 1/4 demons? Like how is that gonna work? I think that's another thing that we have to consider here. But I do feel like, and I really, really, really hope that this isn't the answer. I do feel like it's just gonna be a plot hole for this entire thing. I mean, it's not the first time that we've experienced this in anime where there's a plot hole and we sort of just overlooked it because we're so excited of the plot or narrative or anything like that. But again, another like one option that I've mentioned in the comment section of my video is that it could be that Kagome it could be that Kagome and Inuyasha waited for a couple of years before they actually had children, especially with the responsibility of Kagome being the new leader of the community that they're in. And it could be that Rin already started to become and grow into an adult and before she and Sesshomaru fell in love and stuff like that. And so the overlap of why they got pregnant at the same time, like there's that possibility. But it's still kind of curious as to this entire thing. Like, why are they of the same age? How do they age? Or how is it that they seem to be like in a very similar like just sphere and everything like that. But I do feel like again one option that I'm definitely looking at, and again I really wish I'm not right, but I do feel like another option is that it could just be a plot hole. Um, and again, it's not new to anime to have plot holes like this, especially since this one is really banking on the nostalgia of Inuyasha as a series. It definitely piques our interest, and but I do feel like it could have been better if there's variety in terms of the ages, so that it would make bigger sense, at least for all of us. But that's definitely one option that I'm looking at. Now, with all of those things said, so I guess we really have to move on now to what you really came here for. This whole Sesshomaru Rin idea. Now, a lot of people in the comments are really like they have mixed reactions about this one. So I felt like, and I mean, I thought that it was very obvious in the video that I made, but I think I should have made it clearer. I made it clear in the pinned comment that I was referring to adult Rin, obviously. Like, I'm not talking about 11-year-old Rin being the mother of the children. Again, and the thing with this is that after I looked into this one, I saw a lot of people posting about this official art that apparently animator Sachiya did. And it's with adult Rin, with Sesshomaru, then Jacken is just back there sort of like fanboying. But I've tried to look up like the official source for it because they keep on saying that it's official art, it's not fan art, it's been released officially by the animators and stuff like that. And so I tried to look up like the actual source for it, but I couldn't really find it. Even the accounts that have posted about it didn't really credit where they got the material. So I'm just gonna still take it as it is, but at the same time, have some caution in terms of talking about the validity of it. But again, since this one is released, so it definitely means that the animators are considering the idea of adult Rin and Sesshomaru being together. So again, we're talking about adult Rin here. And with Sesshomaru and Rin, I want to explain as well like my understanding of their dynamic, especially in the original or like the first series, the original series, not the sequel. So when they met, Maru is badly injured and Rin obviously is a kid who's innocent. And the thing with this is, I've never really seen their relationship as father and child, but more of like a master and a ward type of thing. And the reason for this is because, um, again, I feel like it comes down to Sesshomaru's nature, as he's just not a very affectionate type of character. So having this attachment to someone that is even like, I don't know, like fatherly, or again even affection in terms of just having a relationship, like even brotherly, it's not really there. But I feel like he is able to develop a relationship of sort of like, just seeing someone as a companion, similar to Jackin. And I do feel like that's how his relationship with Rin started. And even until the end of the final act, it's more of like this other creature, not necessarily human or friend or something like that, but this other creature that he regarded as a companion, someone that he is sort of like just has on his side and is as important as how Jackin is to him, that he wouldn't necessarily put them in danger, but not necessarily because he understands how he feels about this thing. I am not sure if you're getting where I'm getting at here, but I definitely I think that's how their dynamic is really like. I also felt like they introduced Rin as a kid because the Shomaru needs to understand what emotions are like in the first place without the complications of a romantic relationship. Because if they just went with, I don't know, like a beautiful, already at the same age as Kagome type of girl to see him, then that Sesshomaru is definitely not a bad looking demon. I mean, humans are susceptible to be more enamored with beauty. How dangerous it would seem like. I mean, humans or just creatures in general are enamored by beauty, and seeing someone who looks like Sesshomaru and is Sesshomaru and is injured in a vulnerable state, like if it's already a woman who is capable of having romantic feelings, as we've seen with Princess Sarah in the Woman Who Loves Sesshomaru episode, um, it is already possible that, you know, it, it would, Shishomaru would just perceive it as an unnecessary connection, if you get what I mean. But this one, Rin is presented to us as this very innocent child who isn't capable yet of anything but admiration and gratefulness towards a person that she felt more attuned to. So it's definitely more of this innocence and pureness that Sesshomaru definitely needed to learn in his life for him to develop as a character. And we've seen this because of certain affections or certain responsibilities that he's felt over Rin. That's when we also started to see the change in his dynamic with Kagura. And I've said this in the comment section of my other video as well, but especially in the final act when Kagura died, it was evident that Sesshomaru started to at least learn how it is to feel sorrow and rage for another being, which he's displayed first with when Rin was taken into hell and he went to save her. So it's definitely this dynamic of just feeling something, or not necessarily in a romantic manner, but just exploring one's emotions that have never been tapped before. So I think that's when this entire relationship with him and Rin started. It's definitely not, I don't really see it as fatherly, because can we really imagine Sesshomaru as fatherly or even brotherly to that extent? Not really. So I felt like it was really more of like a master ward type of thing that developed into more of like, what are these feelings of emotions that I'm currently feeling, and why and it developed into more of like an instinct of, this person is in danger, I want to save them because they've been a constant in my company. And then when he started, leaving Rin, when he left Rin in the village, it was definitely more of, again, more of an idea of convenience, but at the same time it's also, um I think partially wanting to allow this kid to actually reconnect herself to humanity, because again, Rin also has this very complicated relationship with humans, given that it's not demons but humans who killed her village and her family. So it, in a way, I feel like everything is instinct initially with Sesshomaru when it came to Rin, because he just doesn't know how to deal with this whole like companionship thing, and there's this very innocent creature who's just willing to follow whatever it is that he's saying or he's commanding. So they definitely don't have that very familial relationship. Since he just goes and gives her gifts and then just leaves, he definitely isn't the one who raised her. Technically it's Kaide. So it's different to, it's kind of like weird to assume that they develop a bond, at least on a more like, if they're consider like it's a familial type of level. So I do feel like, given the official art, and again, official art, and I use this because I still haven't found like the actual source for it. If you know, please let me know in the comments below. But again, since we have this, I do feel like this sort of like somehow confirms their relationship, and in relation to the sequel. So I would say now I'm about 85 to 90% certain that Rin is going to be the mother of Sesshomaru's children. A lot of people also mentioned Kaname. Kaname, I think, from the game thing. So again, for the intents and purposes of this particular video, I'm just sticking to the series and the manga material, especially because I feel like the other things are just add-ons. Now, another theory that people are leaning on towards Towa and Setsuna is that they might just be adopted by Sesshomaru. Now, I would want to debunk this theory, but then at the same time, like, I'm not particularly sure how. But one feature that are mentioned that got people thinking is that they don't have Hanyou-like features, unlike Inuyasha. So even if they're half demon, they don't really have other special features, and they look like humans. There are other things to support the idea that they might be Sesshomaru's actual children, given that Towa shares the same hair color as well as fringe as Sesshomaru, and at the same time for Setsuna, so she has the moko moko of Sesshomaru. I never really saw Sesshomaru as a type who would pass down accessories, but there's that. And I do feel like the creators already made a buzz telling us that these are Sesshomaru's children, so I feel like it would be a cop-out if it just turns out that he just adopted them. So just putting it out there as well. As for the CD drama, so for those who are curious, again, this is approved by Rumiko Takahashi, but at the same time, it's also labeled as satire. So I would definitely take this as a grain of salt. And when I heard the audio material, which I'll be linking down in the description below, when I heard of it, it's definitely out of character for Sesshomaru to profess these types of emotions. So I definitely wouldn't be counting on it as canon. But again, I feel like feel free to interpret it as you go, because it's still material that's related to Inuyasha. It's been approved, but it's not approved as canon 100%. But there's definitely this to support the whole Sesshomaru Rin idea. And again, to end this video, we're talking about adult Rin here, not child Rin. So I just want to like clear the air on that. So yeah. With all that said, needless to say, I'm pretty excited as to how this will turn out. I know that my answers don't really answer much, but just clarify on some things, but I still hope that you enjoy it. Tell me down in the comments below what you think. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to my channel and you would want to hear more from me, please hit subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon in a new video.